I'd wanted to do it for half a year and it only took 5 weeks in the end. Hi guys and welcome back to my channel. In my first video you saw how I ran a 5k. If you haven't checked out that video, I'd highly recommend you go check it out right here. I don't know, right here after this video. In this video, as you can see in the title, I am going to explain how I ran my first 5k. Running 5k isn't that big of a deal once you start running, but getting into it is the hardest part, or at least it was for me. As I'm telling this, you can just see a guy running outside my window. Nice. Good job. You go. I'd say your motivation for running is the most important thing. You have to know why you want to run. To be able to tell you guys why I started running and why I set my first goal to be my 5k, you have to know a little bit about my past. In primary school, I played tennis for a couple of years because one of my friends, we basically just played tennis all the time together. She eventually ended up quitting. So when she quit, I didn't feel like I belonged there anymore, and so when she quit I didn't feel comfortable. I just didn't want to continue playing tennis the next school year. So she actually wanted to go do athletics, and even when I was running there I didn't like running. Like, I loved the social aspect again, I loved long jumps, and like I basically liked every single thing we did there except for the runs, and especially the longer runs. I couldn't turn off my brain and just run. I couldn't get into a pace, like a right pace, because usually I just ended up starting out way too fast and dying after like 1k, and then I'd have like 4k's left to go. And what kept me going was that I was running with the whole group. So I quit, and then I just never got back into it. It was mostly because I just hated running and I was too busy with school and doing homework and having a social life and getting my black belt, and I never regretted it. Like, I was fine not running for like over 10 years. But then last year, in my senior year, my thesis, like writing my thesis, caused me a lot of stress and anxiety. I just had to find a way to cope, and everyone always told me like, just go run. So when I was writing my thesis, I was also getting into running, and long story short, that didn't really happen. I ran on and off. So 2 weeks I did something, 2 weeks I would do nothing, and I would have to start all over again. And then at the beginning of 2020, I kind of set a goal and I enrolled for a running competition in March, which didn't end up happening because of the whole thing going on in the world right now. But it was a motivation for me. Like, I knew I had to go run this competition. I had to perform my best, and so I'd have to train because I couldn't even run a 2k back then without stopping, because mostly because I would start off too fast. There was either a 5k distance or a 10k. Actually, I trained for a 10k for a long time and I would just completely skip the 5k. Long story short, that didn't really work. I did train and I finally got into a rhythm in March. I can show you my schedule here, like what I actually did, and you can just see that like for months I would barely do anything, and then in March I finally found a schedule that worked for me. So in March and the beginning of April I did just that. I had to run 3 times a week. Some weeks I didn't make it, but instead of quitting because I'd already failed myself, I just continue to do it, and I go out a day after my initial plan. It didn't matter. It doesn't matter. 1k would even be hard sometimes because of my pace. Like, my pacing was just so fast. Here are just a few tips that I learned on my journey, and I hope they will help you too. Tip 1 is to set a reachable goal. There's no point in dreaming of running a marathon or dreaming of running a 10k or even dreaming of running a 5k if you haven't ran a single step. It'll become so much more satisfying to reach every single small goal along the way. I talked to my dad, who has a bit more experience than me, but even he has no idea what he's doing sometimes. But the most important thing is I downloaded a free app, eRoots, and it gave me a schedule. And so the first and the second week were actually pretty easy for me because I had been running for 6 weeks already. The first training, we got back and I wasn't tired at all. The third week it started getting very hard, and basically between the second and the third week the app just skyrockets when it comes to distance, and at the end of the third week I had to run a 3.5k without stopping. But that happened something I was never able to do. Tip 2 is to stick to your plan. Your plan. Nobody else can tell you what to do or when to do it. Find something that fits into your schedule, but stick to it no matter what. If you've set it in your schedule, or if you've written it down somewhere that you are gonna run on that day, that time, then do it. Even if it rains. The 3.5 just seemed impossible to me, but I did it. Could barely walk for a solid 5 minutes after I finished, but the next morning I was fine, and that showed me that I was fine and I just have to push myself. I actually got something in the mail because as you guys know, if you've seen that other video, you know that I ran a virtual run, so a virtual running competition, and I got my medal this week. I'm so happy about it. It's great. For me at the time it was just a little more motivation because I knew I was going to get this. And I'm just glad it worked, and to actually hold it in my hands right now it's a sign for me that you can do anything if you just set your mind to it. So basically my training plan for the last 4 weeks before I ran my 5k was running 3 times a week for I'd say all my running routines except for the 3.5k took less than half an hour. Tip 3 is to stretch before you go. I read somewhere, I have no idea if this is valid research, but I've read somewhere that you can either do it before or after, but you have to do it at the same time every single run. Before I go just helped with my calves because they would get so tense. Consistency and stretching are key. And along with stretching, tip 4 is to listen to your body. Everyone has a different area that's just a little bit weaker than the rest of your body. For me it's my calves. For you it might be your hips. Try to get stronger in those areas slowly. Don't overdo it. Just listen to what it needs. I try to stick to somewhat of a diet, but diet is the wrong word. Like I just tried to make healthy choices, which definitely didn't happen in the weekends. But that's okay because you can only make so many changes in 1 month. So I didn't really switch around my diet too much. I ate whatever I felt was right. Tried to increase my protein a little bit, especially right after my run. The weekend of my 5k, I just ate loads of peanut butter, basically. Okay, just quickly, I need to break in to mention as well that you need to drink water as much as possible. Please drink water. It helps so much with recovery, and also during your run, you'll feel so much better. 1, 2, 3. Tip 5 is good shoes. In the beginning I ran on sneakers, which was fine for those shorter distances, but once you've created a routine for yourself, try to get some better shoes. Your knees, your ankles, like they need support, and so it's important to give it to them.
Not a doctor. Shh.
Tip 6 is be consistent. If I would have been consistent from the beginning in September, I would have run a 5k in October. There's no point in looking back, but being consistent is important. So stick to your schedule and be consistent. The last month really showed me that running just comes with a lot of ups and downs. Some runs you feel great and you feel like you've conquered the world and you're on top of a big mountain that you just climbed. And some days I literally felt like I was gonna pass out. I basically got back one time and my mom was like, "What did you do? What did you do?" Because I was so pale and I just hadn't eaten enough. I just hadn't eaten enough. So that showed me that next time I need to eat an hour before I go. I also got to know my body better because I now know that my calves are a big issue and they just need to get stronger, and so that's my next goal. But if I hadn't started running, I would have no idea that my calves had gotten so weak after I quit jiu-jitsu. Like, just, I now know what my limits are, and I especially know how to push those limits. I've also learned that interval training is just important. For me, interval training helped motivate me so much because those distances become just a little bit more manageable. Like, knowing that you can walk in 200 meters is so much easier instead of knowing you have to run another 4K before you're there. I learned to listen to my body, and now I know when I really have to stop. I know when it's just my brain being tired of the routine or my brain being tired of pushing. Tip number 7 is to have someone hold you accountable. For me, it was my dad, because most runs I did with him, and so if I didn't go, he would have to go alone, or if he didn't go, I'd have to go alone. Most of the time we ran together, and it just really helped to actually do it, to actually go outside. Also, another person that really held me accountable was my best friend. He knew my goal, and after every single run, I would send him a screenshot of my route and my stats and my time and my distance. And he would always compliment me. And then the final tip number 8, is to just do it. Start. It's all it takes. One foot in front of the other. So I hope you enjoyed this video and found it inspirational. If you did, please leave a like. And if there's anything else you want me to make a video about, or anything else you would like to ask me, leave that in the comments below. And then I'll see you guys next week in another video. Bye bye!